How are you doing, guys? We are here once again at the Hemp and CBD Expo in Birmingham. I have found on my travels Jamie Taylor here from Cornwall Cannabis Revolution. We're just going to catch up with his thoughts, see what he thinks of the expo and the event so far.
Yeah, well, hi guys. I've only been here a couple of hours today so far, but what I've seen, it's very informative. I can't even say the word, informative. The first stall I met is a guy from Spain. He's been doing it for about 6 years. It's like the information he had about the CBD and the balm for eczema and things like that. So from what I've seen so far, yeah, it's very informative and just amazing, really. A lot of freebies, a lot of free samples, tasters, a lot of networking's been happening. So we're going to get a lot of things introduced to Cornwall, speed it up.
Very nice. So what do you make of the fact that obviously this is just CBD and hemp? It's been isolated from cannabis, we can't say that word.
No, yeah. So a couple of the guys that are CBD stalls, they've asked me also, what do I think about the THC? And I'm quite surprised that they are not willing for it to be legalized, yet they're willing to work with CBD and hemp. It's the same plant. It's another compound from the same plant, and you've got all the research worldwide. You've got the World Health Organization. You've got places like Israel, Spain, America, Canada, Amsterdam, Switzerland even. And so it's for them to be scared still of THC and not really looking at all the hardcore evidence and research and still umming and ahhing, saying I'm not sure, is like mind-blowing to me. I think it should already be legalized.
Well, speaking of the studies, Keith Stroop, who founded Normal way back in the 70s, he was once quoted as saying there's been at least 20,000 studies. If you consider how many more, considering America have been funding Israel's studies into this for 4 decades plus, I'm curious to whether you think something that I've been compiling in my mind over the past few days is it that they're not willing to work with THC, or is it they're too busy profiteering from CBD right now?
So my opinion would be with the government and the pharmaceutical companies, they don't really... But see, first of it started off with the specialists, so only the specialists know. But then they don't have any specialists that are trained in it, because for the last 96 odd years they've been told it's illegal, it's bad, there's no medical values. But then at the same time, they've been doing it secretly behind our backs for a good 12 odd years. It's like Sativex, and a 45-acre field of it. So for them, I think it's literally just they're trying to find a way that they can monopolize on it before letting it open up to the public, and especially now with the talks of CBD, rumours going on about how they're now turning it into a novel food item, and you can't say there's any medical values on it. It's just backwards, So.
Yeah, it seems like they're seeking to reclassify it in international treaties and in conventions so that they can commodify it further. So a lot of the companies, in fact, every single one of the companies I've seen here today have said that CBD is non-psychoactive. That just isn't true. It bonds to the CB1 receptor just in a different way than THC does. It also works on at least 25 other neurological pathways. This is psychoactivity. So they're misrepresenting this product, in my opinion, deliberately to profit from it. And as you can see from the scale of the stalls and the pictures and the things inside, there's a lot of money to be had here. So I suppose my next question then is, you, like myself and many others, you're literally leading a revolution in Cornwall. How are you finding it on the grassroots side of things while we're still criminalized for what we do? We're helping people in our day-to-day lives, while people like this can commodify and make so much money off cannabis.
Yeah, so it's like you're saying about the criminalisation. It's like right now I'm technically classed as a criminal. I've been arrested myself for being in possession of cannabis-based products. But at the end of the day, they're mostly CBD and hemp products. And we have some which things like feca oil, which have their compound THC in it. But it's like, again, if you've done the research and seen other countries, all the medical values behind it. You need that compound in it. So to be me classed as a criminal for keeping people illegally alive, then, you know, I just like, cool, do it. You know, it's like, I can't sit there knowing that I can do something to help others and just, you know, not do something about it. And so if I'm going to be classed as a criminal for it, then so be it. But with the CBD side, you say there's a couple of cowboys as such. A lot of people have seen it as a money opportunity and they've just jumped on it. So I just talked with one of them earlier. He admitted that they don't really know much about CBD, but they know that there's money to be made on it.
They know business though.
And yeah, so then there's people like ourselves who have got compassion clubs which have been helping people medicinally for years, and yet we're classed as the criminals. Well,
yeah, we risk 14 years in prison while they risk making 14 million.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So like, you know, for example, last year when I've got 6 plants in my house, I had 44 medical users that I've been helping with. They go from cancers to MS, fibro, what's the shakes called again? My mind's gone blank. Not Parkinson's. Actually, although I've got a couple of ladies with Parkinson's, epilepsy, and then you've got the mental health side from anxieties, depressions, PTSD like myself. And so I've been helping all these people, getting them the illegal products. But if I, classed as a criminal for keeping them.
So could you give us any more sort of details with what you're doing in terms of how you're helping various people by giving them access to cannabis in replacement of pharmaceuticals or other illicit substances that they're using to try and get the same symptoms relieved that they would get if cannabis was legalized?
Right, so obviously for myself, I'm not a doctor, so I've got a couple of people that work in my team that have, one of them, for example, not saying names, but he's got over 40 years of pharmaceutical experience where he was on the pharmaceutical side, so he's got a very good background and the knowledge, of the pharmaceutical side of things. So when I've got people that want to come off pharmaceutical medication and seeing what THCs, like CBD products, they can take, he would talk to them and he can recommend to what you can, what you can't take, what you can replace it with, and then they will then tell me what he said, a bit like a pharmacy as such. He's the doctor, giving them the prescription as such, and I've gone and I've gone to find it, and they are from tested labs as well, so it's 100%, I know what's in it and it's a safe product. So that's the medical side from online. The other things that I do with KCR is, so at the moment we're now in Launceston, and there was a lot of rumours going on about a massive drug problem in there with heroin and cocaine. I personally didn't believe it. Thought it's a nice quiet town. So I started doing a lot more on the streets, and then I found someone. The first person I found was he was about 28, and he was in a multi-story car park, had his heroin, with this little pipe, heating it all up on the stairs. I had a good chat with him for a couple of hours, gave him a free gram of weed, because obviously that's one of the best ways to help with opioid addictions. And I agreed to him to I have a program basically where every person that I find in the area that's got the drug addiction, they can come meet me by the local library, and they'll get what's called like a FECO capsule. They'll get a free one in the morning, and that will keep them going for hopefully till 6 o'clock in the evening. But they'll meet me again, and they'll get another capsule for free in the evening, and then come see me again the next day, and carrying it on. Now with that, I've tried to get the local police on side to help me with that, because obviously they're struggling with the drug abuse in the area. They weren't interested. What I was doing is a criminal activity, and if they were to find me doing it, they would stop me basically. They don't want me to do it. But that person that I found that night, I've went to go check on him the next day. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning, behind a church on a park bench. He was dead. and there was there was no media coverage about it at all. No local papers, nothing on the internet. Literally, nobody in town knew. And so it's like, in my eyes, you've got the local council and authorities. They know there's a drug issue as such, but they don't want people to know about it. They want to keep it under the radar and just carry on, which obviously is not how it should be. And so I'm one of those. I sit there and say, well, I can do something about it. So I'm one of those. No one else is going to do it, so I will. And so that's what I'm doing with that, basically, going around finding people with that. There's another example of a family. It's a man with MS. He's got 2 children, and they've been through quite a storm, of life events. So a lot of mental health issues there, and obviously, so when you're troubled, you turn to drug addictions. And so 16 and 19-year-old girls, they were like heavily using the coke. They were on pills, and then they started touching heavier like heroin and things. And they weren't allowed to go get any help mentally. They weren't allowed to talk to any other teams because of their drug problems. So when I had a chat with them, I made a deal with them. They would get a 3 gram of weed every 2 days, and if they would just not take any of their other drugs. And the parents were in on it as well, helping, making sure they weren't touching anything else. With now roughly 3 months working with them, they haven't touched any other drugs since, except from obviously the cannabis. Sometimes they drink a bit of alcohol, but it being a legal drug, it's not an issue. Now the 19-year-old girl has now started with her talking. I don't know what they call therapy. Yeah. So that's going really well for their family as well. It's just at the moment, I know there's more people that need the help that I can see, but I'm just a one person. At the moment, I've got 44 people that I'm helping with MS, Parkinson's, fibro, going around giving them their Feco oil, then doing the 2 drops a day at the library for the drug addiction people, and then trying to get events going on for the recreational side, the head shop open for people, a smoke lounge, because there are a lot. There's the other issue in these small areas in Cornwall. There's nothing for the young ones to do. There's no social clubs. There's no. They're literally on the streets, or you find them again in a multi-story car park, and they're causing trouble. They're smashing things. Shouting around, loud music, trouble, mate. And people will come up to you, be careful, there's naughty kids around there. And it's not, they're just bored. And so it's like, again, another thing to try and make it a happier neighbourhood as such is by introducing these social clubs where they've actually got somewhere where they can all meet, and they can all chill and have whatever they want to do, and it's in a safe environment as well. They're not on the streets causing trouble. The other thing I've been doing as well, so police clearly cannot, they can't do it, as they've admitted they're overstretched, understaffed. So what my team have done, we set up a group of people that find other type of drug dealers. So the people in the local area that sell cocaine, sell the pills, and then we get a sample of them, or we'll buy some of them. They don't know what's really happening. So the lab we're using at the moment is in Bristol. They get sent up there, we get the results back, so what exactly was in those drugs, and some of the things we've been finding, but it's scary. So from concrete powder, little things like bicarb, but then you go to concrete powder to bath salts. Now there was this, I can't remember the exact name of it, but they were saying that it was 0.01 milligram of this is enough to put someone in hospital. And there was these pills which were coated in this. They had about 300 milligrams of this chemical of bath salt, which is more than enough to kill someone. And that was going back I think that was the same problem with last year when I got shut down with that 15-year-old girl that died. She first time trying a pill, turns out it was cut with something, and she ended up going into cardiac arrest and was dead. So it's like, that's another thing we're doing. So then, if they are selling the drugs that are cut, we would then tell them, like, if they know or they're doing it themselves, we will personally shut them down ourselves. And the way we do that, it's not, it's not violent. You're not going around beating them up. You're not robbing them. You just find their supplier,
Cut them off.
and you cut them off that way. Because a lot of the big suppliers are actually nice people. They're not happy with their drugs being cut. That, everyone wants that is experimenting with psychedelics and things like that. They want to, they just want to have a good time.
Exactly. People are exploring their own consciousness, and it's a wonderful thing you're doing. Similar to what we're going to be doing in Durham, is using the clubs as a harm reduction centre and as a community centre. So you're actually going and rescuing some of the most vulnerable people in your community that your own council, your own services, your own MP have turned their back on. So you are choosing to risk 14 fucking years in prison for cultivating and getting people access to the cannabis that they need, that the NHS is failing to provide them, and that a homeless person living on the street can't afford $2,500 for a monthly prescription to get imported Bedrocan cannabis. So I applaud you, and I implore you to continue, brother. Seriously, it's an amazing thing you're doing. 44 lives are bettered by the fact that you have the fortitude to risk your freedom. So do not go another day without believing that you are doing a hell of a service for your community. And one day when this fucking war is over, you will be rewarded for this, I assure you, by, if nothing else, the families of those 44 lives that you have saved and changed. So thank you very much for agreeing to speak to me, and cheers, brother. Cheers. Peace.